Hey everybody, welcome to Barsha. Hello people entering the room. Martha Barsha, Kathleen, all these people that are entering into the room. I am going to be with you in a minute. We're very excited. Please share and broadcast to the world by hitting those two little white lines, hitting broadcast to the world and sharing. We're going to have a great show today. And here we are with this little Waitbot music. I don't know, it's Renaissance meets folk meets something or other. And I am going to invite my friend to the stage. Here he comes, get ready. Woo! Winston Roye is coming to the stage. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for welcoming. Oh, I love the applause. Let me get my welcome song ready for Winston Roye, the great Winston Roye. There we go. I'm going to mute my little Frank Sinatra with avatar glasses. And there he goes. Where do you go on Mondays when you want to have fun? Where can you go on Mondays when your day is done? Well, Fireside Chat is where it's at. Our guests are all the best. But if you're looking for a rocker that you want to employ, he's the real McCoy. He's Winston Roye. Help me in welcoming Winston Roye. Okay.
That's good.
Listen. Thank you, everyone. I was going to rhyme it with "He's your boy," and then we were going to get into trouble.
So no trouble.
We got employ. We got real McCoy. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, Winston J. Roye.
Hey,
my friend, my bassist with me in Tina, the Tina Turner musical. Plus, We're going to get into how Winston was part of the rehearsal process. But first, I'd like to know, what does the J stand for?
James. That's my middle name.
Winston James Roye. That is beautiful. Maybe those people who don't know what it takes to be in a pop rock Broadway show. Okay.
Yes.
How is that? Is that the only shows kind of that you get? I'm getting right into it. That you get called for, or that you want to be called for?
Well, I will gladly accept any calls from anyone, but I think that I seem to have, I get called for these, for like musicians on stage, part of the show kind of guys, the things that are a little off of the normal, just sitting down and playing the music stuff. So if you need a guy that can dance, do costumes, choreography, run around like a crazy person, I'm the guy to call.
You are. Yes. And I do. It's true. And I need to tell you all, and Winston will tell you too, what Winston had to do for Tina, the Tina Turner musical. Can you tell them that you actually have costume changes? Not many musicians have costume changes, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have 5 costume changes and wig changes and dancing on stage while playing, and then also, not on stage, playing in the pit with the rest of the band as well. So it's right. a little bit of everything.
Okay, so I just need everybody to know that I shouldn't give it away, but it's closing on the 14th.
Yeah.
And it's been an incredible experience. By the way, even though I was a sub on Key One on the show, thank you, Lily. I was there during the rehearsal process because it was a music team. So we had a whole team of people. And not always is the bass player and drummer and the rehearsal pianist included in the rehearsal process, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, usually as a bass player, we're almost at the end of the process and sort of at the beginning of bring the band in at the last possible second and then start the show into previews and things. But for this, myself and the drummer Rocky Bryant, we were there from day one.
Day one. Then I got to tell you something, and then we'll go into Winston's life, which is a great life and continues to be a great life. I watched Winnie. Can I call you Winnie, or would you rather?
Okay. No, that's all good.
I've worked with Winston for years, so I'm calling him Winnie.
Yeah.
Okay, so Winnie, I watch you during the rehearsal process. Phillida Lloyd, our director of Tina, really loved to do acting exercises, and you participated in all of them, right?
Yeah, it was a great experience. She certainly has a background in theater. She did Mamma Mia, but she also has a very deep background in film direction. And I think that's really where she was coming from, which is getting, like in a film, getting everyone in the same room and getting everyone on the same page of the vibe and the emotional impact that they want to have. And she felt strongly enough that, it will bring myself and the drummer in to be a part of that. So when we're all there at the same time, and yourself, we're there all at the same time, feeling exactly the same emotions that everybody else is feeling. And I think that may be one of those things that just kind of separates the show from, it would have been great to just another gear more, because of her, just, those little details.
Yes, I agree with you. And, these exercises were in a room full of the actors. She would invite anybody who wanted to be in the exercises. And they involved a lot of intense ways you felt about yourself. I noticed, and I'd watch you and I thought, wow, I've always played with him, but I've never, you must have been so exhausted to, to be doing what the band does plus the actors. I mean, or was it invigorating?
But it's invigorating because, it was a learning experience, first of all. I mean, I had, walking out of there, you're certainly tired and exhausted, but you got so much out of it. And it was a very emotional experience as well. And I think as a result, the entire show team, everybody, it became more of less of a job and your fellow coworkers and more of a family sort of a vibe.
Yes. And now that we've done no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And that certainly, we needed that with what we were talking about, the actual story, and then certainly going into COVID, coming back from COVID, having that bond was really important.
And I want to just say one more shout out to the producers, the general management, everybody who took the care and time during the time we were unemployed.
Yep.
First of all, to give us the unemployment insurance, but also, yes, thank you, Charlotte. But also, we had wonderful conversations when we came back from a terrible 18 months. Okay. So shout out to that.
Yeah.
Now I want to just give you the accolades you deserve as a musician. I wanted to start from where we are today, and then go backwards. So you not only play the bass, you grew up in New York. Some of the people you've worked with, it's kind of amazing. Like Enrique Iglesias, Lauryn Hill, Shakira, Bernie Worrell, and for I believe 10 years with Soul Asylum. Is that true?
That's correct. Yeah. 10 years.
So you're getting some claps there, you see. Okay. And you are coming, as I am, from the rock world into theater, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What was your first rock musical on Broadway?
It was Rock of Ages. And that was I never thought I could actually play on Broadway. I never even aspired to it. I just assumed that was not even something that I could do. And so to go for that to be my first musical, I feel very lucky and blessed to have done that. And it was a great experience.
Yeah. And you on stage, I just need to say one more thing. When Winnie and I are standing next to each other in the finale of Tina, he's doing all the rock moves that a bass player in a giant arena would do, including pointing up at the balcony when you're the and the rock stance and the pick and everything, and we're jamming with each other and looking at each other, and that's what we were acting wise and
Yeah.
musically told to do. You are
Yeah.
now in a 180,000 person
Yeah.
filled stadium at that point, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we had. I mean, I think the show in many ways, it's like I describe it as it's a Broadway musical, and then it suddenly turns into a gigantic concert, and it has all of the qualities of a concert. It's loud and bright and powerful, and luckily for myself and the drummer, specifically Nick Skilbeck, who was the music supervisor for the Tina show, he just he said to us point blank, certainly there's obviously music notes that you need to hit on the page that are written out, but we want you to, I want you to use your experience of actually playing these songs, playing the life that you've led, and just do what needs to be done. So that's what we're doing.
That is major, and I agree. And even when Nick was trying to get the sound with the sound people for the show, he wanted there to be a real difference between the play itself and when we do the concert at the end,
Yes.
which
Yes.
it was done with such care, and I
Yeah.
really, it was amazing. I want to talk about Rock of Ages first, though.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
you're on the stage. You were plucked out of your rock and roll touring whole thing, right? And all of
Mhm.
a sudden, you're like on a Broadway stage, and you have to do the same thing pretty much every 8 shows, right?
Yes.
Eight. Okay.
Mhm.
So how did that differ from, when you're on tour with a band, you pretty much have to do it, but it's not as strict. I mean, you have to, but
Right.
isn't the fact that you had no music for Rock of Ages, that's totally different than a Broadway show, right?
Yeah, we had a book. I mean, it's somewhere, I guess. There is music for it, but the entire show was memorized. So we just, as soon as you could figure out what it is that you needed to play, you had to just start memorizing. I would tell my subs, people that would play for me if I couldn't be there, that it would take 6 weeks to learn the show, which was very discouraging for a lot of Broadway musicians who are used to just showing up and you put music in front of them and they read it and it's done. To say, unfortunately, you're going to have to put in a lot more time than you normally would. Um, but as a result, I think we got, again, the quality of the players and what we got out of it was really, it came, it really, it sort of was a moment, and it was a very different from a lot of the things that were out there at the time.
It was, yes. And it went from Broadway to off Broadway because it had such a life and they wanted to keep it alive. And wasn't there a point where you were doing both shows at once?
Well, we went off Broadway to Broadway and then back to off Broadway. And I was on the show off Broadway when I got the call to do Tina. So there was a moment when I was doing morning and afternoon rehearsals with Tina, with yourself and the team putting the show together. And then I would dash out of there and run across the other side of Broadway and then do the Rock of Ages show as well. And it was probably not a good idea to have done both things. But after a while, there was a little bit of an overlap before I was like, okay, I need to just focus on this new Tina project.
Okay. Now, I try to demystify backstage things with Broadway.
Hmm.
We are going to talk about your music. We're going to talk about everything in your life, but I do want to demystify one thing.
Yes.
There are things people don't know backstage about Broadway. One of them is what you are on Tina, which is the in-house contractor. Can
Yes.
you explain to lay people what that also involves on top of your playing in the show?
The in-house contractor, it's a job that is separate from being a musician, and essentially, I am standing between the union of our musicians local 802 and the contractor, who is a person that is hired by the show to put together and sort of put together the band and take care of the band. And so I'm sort of a straddling those things, and also the show's management and stage management. So in this particular, and every show it's a little different, but in the case of Tina, I do the band's payroll. I do the scheduling for the band, who's going to be playing, who the subs are. I get all of that contact information. I give it to our COVID safety team to make sure that they're aware of who's coming in and out. I give that information to the stage door people so that strangers are not coming and going. And certainly now with COVID, it's a little different because now we can't have just people showing up at the theater. Uh,
Right.
oh, I want to come by and pick up such and such. Now we have to. Everything has to be planned. And are you tested for COVID? Are you negative? Are you? So it's a little bit more involved. And then sometimes some light diplomacy of if there's issues and problems that can be resolved without having to get other people higher up on the chain involved. But that's basically it, and
Mhm.
it can get involved at times,
Yeah.
but I
I
love it.
mean, I'm
It's
just
fun.
saying, yeah, it's great. And by the way, we do get paid for that position
Yeah,
above
yeah,
and
yeah,
beyond.
yeah,
Above and beyond.
yeah.
So it's funny because it's like your office and it's your creative place at the same
Yes,
time.
yeah. I
Yeah.
have a dressing room, and I have in there a printer and Wi-Fi, and lots of paper, and there's lots and lots of paperwork. So
Yes. So it takes a certain kind of a person to do
yeah.
that and to play by. So can we please have applause for that? Thank you
Oh,
very
thank
much,
you.
Winston Roy. Okay, I'll give you applause for that too. Yes. Okay, now what I would also like to say is let's go back to the beginning. You
Yes.
went to the High School of Music and Art, and before that, you were playing at what age? Thank you, Mom. That was my mother down there. Go ahead.
Nice. I don't know. As I feel like as long as I can remember, and so I'm going to say maybe six, 8, or whatever. My mom encouraged me. She just sent me to take piano lessons, and I think the first maybe week I probably cried about practicing, and then after that I loved it, and that was I. She never had to. I mean, she never really pushed me. I think she just knew some. I have a feeling about him and music. So once I got the bug bit me for it, I was off and running. And so I played piano, and I went to every summer music camp and after school music school, and every teacher and every class. And I played the guitar, and then I played the cello, and I played the bassoon, and I just kind of went around, and then finally in high school I got bitten by the bug by to play bass, and that was
So,
and
wow, it took till high school. You were playing piano. Bassoon just blew me away. Bassoon. Okay.
yeah.
So, I mean, can you still play the bassoon?
No, I can't. It's been a long time.
But yeah, okay. So you play drums,
I
right?
played
You play
drums. Yeah,
piano, you
yeah,
play guitar, you play bass. That is amazing.
yeah.
But you enjoy the bass the
I,
most,
d-
right?
I do. I do. It's really good. Drums is actually really fun too. but
Yes.
um, yeah, and it's you know it's it. I don't know how it happened, but it was something that I felt strongly about, and I just kept at it. So
Yeah. Um, I want to talk about a little bit something you and I connect on.
hmm
And we've had a conversation about this,
hmm
and it's what we know what we can't do and what we like to do and are good at.
yes,
And I think a lot of people, you got to get to a certain place in your life where if someone asks you to play a show and you look at the music and go, you know what, I'm not the guy for that.
that's
I'm
right.
of that too.
Yes.
So we talked. So you would say that like my shows have all been Jersey Boys, Donna Summer, Tina,
hmm
because that's the stuff I know. Like I know how to do that. I grew up
Yes.
listening to it. So let me hear some of the shows that you've been on, either
I
on
did.
or off.
Yeah, I did. Rock of Ages. I did um, two musicals. I did a musical called Getting the Band Back Together, and I did a
Right.
musical called Home for the Holidays. And both of them have the distinction of being Time Out's 25 worst musicals of all time. Uh, so I feel, there's a lot of, I take pride in having two of them. Um, and then the Tina musical. And
Right.
I think I did. I subbed for Luiko Hopper at when he was doing a musical called Fortress of Solitude. Um, but that's my resume is just a very narrow set of Broadway musicals and things.
Okay, and meanwhile, you're going around the world for years with Soul Asylum. Is that
Hmm.
true?
Yeah.
Yeah. If people don't know Soul Asylum's big, by the way, I forgot about this. I went back and watched the video. If anybody doesn't know about Soul Asylum's song, what was it called? Runaway Train.
Runaway Train.
And that video with the missing children. Yeah,
Yes.
everybody go on YouTube and watch that. And
Yes.
I didn't realize what a giant thing it turned into. Can you tell us, is it still resonant, that missing children video to that song?
Well, I will say this: we played a show a few years back at the at First Avenue, which is the iconic Minnesota Minneapolis club made famous by Prince and Purple Rain, and it's really Soul Asylum's home for sure. They are one of the huge them and Prince, I would say, are really the big bands from that city. And we played a show. I think we played our holiday show that we usually do around Christmas time. And after the show, a guy showed up, and he had been one of the children that had been missing. He had uh, been taken by his father, and so he didn't know that he was missing. He just, I think his father said something like, "Oh, your mom is something happened to her or something." So she's looking for him and doesn't find him, and he's not aware that he's missing. And then one day, the FBI came to his house when he was in his late teens and was like, "Your father, you're under arrest, and you've been wanted by your," and he was a mess. I mean, the emotional trauma of all of that. Anyway, so he showed up at the show, and he had like printed out pictures of screen caps of the music video, and where there were pictures of him. Like he had found in all of this quick editing and things, him, and he's like, "This is me. Like I was in your video," and ooh boy, it was rough.
Wow.
And I give so much credit to the singer Dave Perner. The show was over at that point, and he said we closed the house, and he got a guitar out from storage, and he played like an hour of Soul Asylum songs just for him. It was Dave sitting there in a chair, and this guy sitting across from him, and whoo boy, it was a very because
Yeah.
there's a lot of those children. A lot of those children just didn't know that they were missing. They now we have the internet and we have so many more things in technology. In 1992, a parent might take a child and then it's very hard to find them. So there's still
Wow.
damage and healing that's coming from that.
That is an amazing story, that a rock band who just made a video with a good intention of and then
Yeah,
all of a sudden those kids are found later in life. And I watched this video where 26 of them came forward after
yeah,
that video, 26 of them. And then there
yeah,
weren't some nice stories either. They're
sure.
terrible, but that really made an impact.
Yes.
And you told I watched another interview with, hey, shout out to George Farmer. There was
Oh,
a
yeah, that's a
great
great name.
interview with, yes, and he said, and you were tell him that you play only with a pick during that.
No, 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 no. In
On
Soul
what
Asylum,
gig? Yes, in Soul
it's Soul
Asylum.
Asylum. Yes, yes.
So that's just pick playing and nothing
Yeah.
else. And I don't want to get too into the whole thing about bass playing in this, because everybody's here, not just musicians.
Yes.
But is that more intense than
It's
playing?
it tends to give it a little bit more of a edge and a little more of a rock kind of feel to it. So
Right.
uh,
Okay.
it's not for everyone. That's for sure.
It's so funny. Okay, so then you you grew up in New York, but
Yes.
weren't you in New Hampshire for part of your life?
I and my junior year, I left New York, and my parents separated, so I lived with my dad in New Hampshire, and that was a fantastic and interesting experience because I'd gone from one extreme of extreme New York, city to New Hampshire, high alpine, cold, rural, desolate country, and I so somehow I'm a blend of all of those kind of influences there.
Yeah. And you know what I love it when you bring up blend. You and I have had deep conversations, not about just music, about everything.
Yes.
I mean, it's been unbelievable. Don't you like, aren't you like a carpenter or something? And you
Well,
build things?
I love doing that. That was one of the things I came back, and when I moved back to the city, then I wound up moving to New Jersey, and I really I got a passion for it because I, again, growing up in the city, it didn't we didn't you had if you needed something repaired or fixed or built, you have superintendents of buildings and things. There wasn't any room for table saws and wood and stuff. But then being in the country, I was like, I really want to learn about this and get into this a little bit more. So I just kind of dove into it, and you know, again, luckily, with the internet and good people, you can figure stuff out. So I
Yeah.
really love it, and it's a very relaxing sort of thing. And I move very slowly, so I don't cut one of my fingers off or something. So
I
it's
know
it's
our
very
hands.
very peaceful. So I'd be a very slow carpenter if I had to do that for a living and probably be fired. But I just take my time.
Well, it's funny because the more I got to know you as a person, the more I enjoyed playing with you too. Because I think a person plays with all of themselves, not just the part that's been trained. You know what I mean? It's like
Well,
everything.
my
I mean,
our good friend, great orchestrator John Clancy, he said he
yes,
has an expression, and he says, "You play your personality," and that's very
that's
true.
true. That's true. Yeah. And our show, as you said before, is so great because there's very few Broadway shows that will say to you, okay, here's where you can veer off and not necessarily have to play what's on the page.
Yes, yes, that's
You
true.
know, there are very, very few. And there's this one place where you always come backstage and you say to me, how did you play that funky thing? I have to tell you something about this. I meant to tell you about this. On the paper, it's this. And then when I play it, I go,
Yeah,
so it's like you're able to write, you know, go with it. You're able to go
yes,
with the groove, right?
yeah,
Have all the
yeah.
shows you've been on been click shows?
Mostly, and a little bit of conducting, but most of them have been more groove oriented, and so click is more important, I think.
Click is more important. Okay. And those of you that don't know, it's just like a metronome clicking, but I make the click my friend, don't you? That's the
Yes,
rule. Make
yeah,
the click your friend.
yeah.
All right. Let's talk about the eclectic, amazing taste you have in all kinds uh, of genres. So, who would you say? I mean, I know from watching some videos and doing some research on you that it's everybody from Bowie to Stone Temple Pilots to Weather Report to ABBA to Heart to Simple Minds. Like, though, that's your thing.
Sure.
That it's is it basically 80s rock with a little fusion mixed in and some jazz?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I started out as a child, it was 100% classical music. So that sort of that I was filled up with that, and then jazz. And those were the only records that we listened to in my house, really. And so it's 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 coming from that sort of foundation. And then when I became a teenager and a little bit older, then I started getting more like funk and pop music and rock and roll and stuff. And then that's sort of where I kind of stayed. But it's still a mix up of all these other things that are in there as well. um, and I, my what got me actually the actual band that got me going was when I first heard Cheap Trick live at Budokan,
Oh
and
my
that was
God.
the record. I was like,
I love it. Give me some more milestones in your listening career of like what freaked you out and really you knew that I'm a rocker.
well, it's like I think of back in the day they had that thing where you would send away for records, like you'd get a dozen records or whatever. So it was kind of that. It was ELO and ABBA, and I'll also say this: I have a bunch of, now we're going off the path a little bit, but I have a lot of black musician friends: Sterling Campbell, Charlie Drayton, Zach Alford,
Yes.
Rocky Bryant, and there was something that was happening in the '80s where we were all like black kids in New York City, and we wanted to play rock music and pop music,
Wow.
but
Yeah.
there wasn't really anything that we could that spoke to us, and so we went to what was happening in England, and that's where we get the Bowies and the Simple Minds and all of that British music was being re-imported back to us because we were seeing, I remember seeing Tony Butler, the bass player for Big
Yeah.
Country, and I was like,
Yep.
there's a black guy that's playing rock and roll, like real
I didn't.
hard. And like that
Yes.
was inspiring because
And
it
Living
was like,
Color started.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. It was inspiring to see, like I like, I like Chic and I like Led Zeppelin. Like, is there something for me? And that's where you get like that influence. And I think all of us kind of share that.
Well, I'll probably get flagged on YouTube because I'm simultaneous. But I'm going to play a little of the opening number from Rock of Ages. This is the Broadway cast album that Winston is playing on. And here is how it opens. If you're used to thinking of Broadway a certain way, think of it this way. Okay.
Yes,
Now, who is playing guitar?
that is the amazing Joel Hoekstra.
Oh my
And
God.
what makes Rock of Ages what also made that show special is that, and I don't mean this in any way to denigrate my fellow Broadway musicians, but Joel Hoekstra actually is and was the guitar player in Night Ranger, Whitesnake. So he's actually, when we talk about like, oh, we played, Sister Christian was one of the songs that was in the show. Well, he actually was in the band. So
Oh my
he's bringing
God. I gotta hear that. Wait. Holy. Come on, that's good for
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So the foundation of the musical was built on 5 guys who just played in bands. The guitar player Tommy was so it was a very, we were bringing 100% authentic rock and roll to it, and so it was very.
Do you know my cousin Zach Borove?
Yeah. He was the lighting and
Zach. He the projection. He was the projection guy.
Yeah. He's fantastic. He does so many shows. He's so talented. I mean,
I
amazing.
discovered he was my cousin on my own show. It's so funny. He was like up in the it was very strange. Hi, Zach, if you're listening. So, okay, now here you are. Tell us the truth, your true feelings.
Yeah.
Do you think the movie ruined the show? Do you think it enhanced the show? Or what do you think of the movie of Rock of Ages?
I did not see it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that on purpose?
It just never came up, and then I
You
think
didn't want to see the whole Tom Cruise whole
I just
thing.
then at some point it was a little too late to go and actually seek it out. So one
Right.
day I will see it. But it's just every iteration of something. Sometimes it changes, and people have said it's great. Some people have said it's terrible. It's like
And
if
you
you were
never
entertained,
saw
then
it.
that's good enough.
I love
Yeah.
it. Okay, and now, just so you know, this part of the half hour that I do, we talk about more things. But if anybody feels the need that they want to come up and ask any questions to Winston, you can. All you have to do is hit those little two white lines, and I will invite you. The one thing I want to keep talking about, though,
Mhm.
is your family,
Yeah.
because was there anybody else musical in your family?
My mother, she's part of a very large family. I it's something like 4 girls. I mean, it's like 8 people who are her sisters and brothers, and between they had like essentially like a family band. Like they would play in church, and they would play they had a parlor in their house that had a piano, and so everybody sang, and my mom played a little bass. Um, and that was I didn't even realize that until I was a little older, but she played piano, she sang, she played a little bass. Another sister would play the piano, another person played a little guitar. The dad, grandfather, he played a little piano. So there was music in the house. I mean, it's sort of and less television and radio, and more pulling out sheet music and playing
Like a
church
single,
songs and
yes.
sing-alongs and parties and things. Yeah. So I got a little bit of that influence, I think, from her.
But you did have full support from your parents as a musician, which is so rare.
Yeah.
I mean, more and more each day, people say, oh, you can have a career in music, but it wasn't always the case.
Yeah.
Did you ever have professional gigs on anything other than the bass?
I played drums for a second in Ace of Base.
Oh, no, you did
Yeah.
not. Wow.
There's a great video of I think it's on The View, me playing with playing drums. My friend at the time was the drummer in the band, and he missed his flight. And he called me and he said, we have a rehearsal, and I may get fired if I don't make. I'm not going to make it. So if you show up and play, maybe we can salvage something out of this. So I showed up, and I was like, I'm here. Your drummer couldn't make it. So and I played the rehearsal, and they were like, okay, you'll do the gig, and he's fired. So
Oh my God. And Lily just wrote in the chat that she noticed Ace of Base in your bio.
yeah, yeah. It was that's another hugely iconic pop band. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I did, and then I played an entire summer tour. No, sorry, 2 summer tours for Kids Bop, who in the mid 2000s did a arena tour. I played drums on that, and that was
That
really wonderful.
is that is something I've never known about you. That is so funny. I
Once again,
love
I,
that.
I owe it to my our good friend John Clancy, who was the music supervisor at the time for the Kids Bop tour. And he said, "Are you doing anything this summer?" And I said, "I don't think so." And so far, and he's like, "Let's get you on drums." So
That's amazing. Yes,
yeah,
John was the original drummer on my musical, Radiant Baby.
he's so
I
talented.
Yes, he is. And he went on to be a Tony nominated orchestrator. Thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay, so now I want to ask you a little bit about how you feel about this. I don't want to get listen. You and I have had very deep conversations, but it seems like when you say bassoon, when you say bass, when you say drums, it's toward the lower range of where instruments are.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
is it ear-wise that you were attracted to? I mean, for those of you that don't know, if you play a regular chord and then you change the bass, it's still the same chord, but the bass is different. And I'm not going to give a lesson.
Yeah.
But for you to think like that as a bass player, where your root determines what the chord is, Why is that attractive to you? I know it's a little esoteric, but tell me where that comes from.
I'm not sure really, but it's something I definitely I feel lucky that I did have some of the background of playing the piano and guitars and stuff. So I feel like I have a good understanding of harmony and the importance of how that is rooted, in the bass. And again, I go back to our British friends. One of the most classic examples is the Pete Farndon, the bass player in the Pretenders. I
Yes.
say British; they're an American band, but they broke in England anyway. But
Right.
and he is when you listen to some of those early records, that is really textbook playing of a D chord. Now it's a D with an F sharp in the bass. So he's
Exactly.
moving things around, and something about that appealed to me, I guess. And there's a certain, I don't know, it's like a discipline of you're kind of keeping the band on the rails of the feel and the sort of approach to what you're doing. And I try to put a lot of emotion into what's happening. So there's definitely a lot of, I'm really pushing uh, everyone in the band quite a bit. So I think
Yes.
that's where it kind of comes from.
And I noticed, like in our show, you really lock in with our drummer Rocky, who, by the way,
Yeah.
is the average white band's drummer. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
like okay. And so I noticed when you lock in that you guys actually take things to another level. I mean,
Sure.
not that you're not always locking, but I'm talking about the finale and some of the
Yep.
more
Mhm.
improvisational parts.
Yeah.
Like when we are doing the different, it's almost like, okay, let's do Rolling on a River in every different style we
Yeah. Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
so it's just amazing for the bows that you've done that and you've created that. That is just, I have not been in a show where that's done. Where okay, let's do this tonight. Let's do that tonight. I just love it. It's so it must be so freeing to have that on a Broadway stage.
It is good. Again, our music supervisor, Nick Skilbeck, he said one time in the rehearsal, he said, I want every show to be an unrepeatable night of music, not a,
Oh,
um, uh, not the same, its own in the way it would really be a concert. If you saw Tina Turner in Brazil or you saw her in Italy or in a club, each experience was different and unique and amazing for what it was. So you weren't
yeah.
trying to create something and apply it to another thing. So in theory, if we were doing it correctly, you could probably see a week of Tina shows on Broadway. And if you were really tuned into the musical aspect of it, it would feel like it was a special bespoke event for each time.
Yeah, and you've done it, and we had that long break. But I want to say that every time, at least I've been on stage with you, that's happened with you and Rocky. It's amazing. And so when you did like the little punk thing at the end, and you were doing the eighth notes, I mean, it was
Yeah,
just it's fantastic. It's
yeah.
fantastic, and I smile and laugh. And you always one thing that you do is I want to tell everybody when he
Mhm.
schools me on the stage, whenever I'm into my own self and we have to throw the focus to Tina at the end, he'll just take his bass and he'll throw it there. And I'll go, oh, yeah, you've done that to me a lot. And I want to give you applause for that. Don't think I haven't noticed. Okay. We have fun. We have
Yeah.
fun on this show. Okay. I'm done, by the way. The show's closing on the 14th, but my last show was a couple nights ago because I have to go out of town. Okay. All right. So if you had to at this moment say if somebody was going to, what call would you like to get with not Broadway? I'm talking about like a band, and someone said you picked up the phone and said, "Hey, can you go on tour with us or play with us on an album?" Who would that be? Name a few artists that would be your ultimate dream job.
Well, some of them are bands that I've just loved. I joke that, I mean, God forbid, if I was at a Cheap Trick concert and Tom Peterson had to go to the restroom, I could literally jump over the security barrier and pick up wherever. I know all of their songs cold. Bands like Yes, um, those are just the bands that I grew up with, listening to. Um, there's a band, in Minneapolis called EL No. They're an ELO cover band, and it's like when I saw them, I'm like, this is, I said, if you ever need a bass player, I mean, I know all these songs, so it's sort of those kinds of groups that I've always been, really passionate about. And then now there's a lot of new, very cool bands that are coming out.
Right.
Um, and there's a lot of really interesting, like American stuff. Um, some of the new country music, that's really kind of
Yeah.
interesting. And then some artists like Billie Eilish, who's just they're just blowing
Oh,
things up in a whole other way.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. No,
so
that is so true. And we did this B-52's musical that I was MD'd that when he was I had him dressed in an orange jumpsuit.
yes, yeah,
And we played in this East Village site specific place where there was one bathroom for the audience and the
yeah, yeah.
band and the actors. So I've gotten Winnie on some. We did a Peter Gabriel musical
That was a good
together.
one. Yeah,
Yeah, we've done
I
quite a few. Go ahead.
yeah. I was gonna say a lot of I've always gravitated, I think, to I mean, I love a lot of hard and heavy stuff, but I also love a lot of the very sort of interesting. I love, like Bjork and
Yes.
um, the things that are just a perfect circle. These bands that are doing something a little bit off the normal sort of path of stuff.
Yes. That is great. Yes, and you're very theatrical. I would say that on a stage, you're very theatrical. You take the stage. Do you have anybody? I know this is so hard that people say, "Who are your idols, bass players?" But just name some of them that
Oh,
you
it's
really.
easy. That's easy. The first four are very straightforward. Uh, Tom Peterson from Cheap Trick.
Yes.
Tony Levin played with everyone, but we know him from a lot of the Peter Gabriel stuff.
Yes.
And King Crimson.
Yes.
Uh, Pete Farndon from the Pretenders. Again,
From the
another
Pretenders. Yes, you mentioned.
little bit off of the whatever. John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin, and that. And in there's of course all of James Jamerson and the Motown and
Oh yeah.
and Willie Dixon and the blues. I mean, there's everybody's in there somewhere. But those are the guys that I really always was inspired by their sound and their approach and sort of the different Chris Squire of Yes. I forgot that was my other big one
Oh
there.
yes.
Huge. Very, very heavy and very melodic at the same time. So
Oh, that's great. And I have these messages coming up to me. Lily is saying, I haven't heard the words King Crimson in so long.
yeah.
And also, she said she saw something that you did a Tom Jones album.
I don't think I did a Tom Jones album.
I don't know what that was about. Lily, did you want to come up and ask a question to Winnie at all? Because I see you saying, there you are. Do you have a question for Winston?
Oh, hello. No, it's Deborah. When you noted, hi, Winston.
Hey, how you doing?
Tom Jones, and I couldn't remember is it roll it or row it up the river? Because when I was a child, we had that album.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, rolling on the river. Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, but this is great. Oh my God, so much fun.
Oh, you're welcome. And if anybody else, go ahead.
Say Tina Turner is interesting also because I think when you really think about it, Tina Turner is a hybrid blend of soul and R&B and rock and roll. I mean, the power and speed and tempos and energy of those shows is well into what we could consider just rock and roll right now. So it's a nice combination of all those elements.
Yes, absolutely. And chart busting hits. We are playing the soundtracks track of our lives, Winnie, you and I. I mean, we're of a certain age where those were giant hits, when we were So that's amazing. Now for you, Do you think, I know this is terrible to ask you this,
Go ahead.
but I mean, here we are, we're on Broadway. The future of theater is very hard right now because we're constantly testing for COVID. The band
Yes.
still plays with masks on stage, even though the mask mandate has been lifted.
Yes.
Do you see, I'm asking for like a
Mhm.
crystal ball thing, but do you
Mhm.
think we're going to be out of this whole thing? Or do you think this is going to be for a while? Everybody's so careful in theater now because we really want this industry to continue, right?
Yes. It's going to go on for a while. And
Okay.
and we shouldn't make no mistake, we will be pivoting soon to monkeypox.
Oh,
It will be happening. This is brand new, and now it's a state of medical emergency in New York State. We are all, a few weeks away from having to address that head on. And I'm sorry to say that for a variety of reasons, we people are sort of in denial. Oh, it's a gay thing. I don't have to worry about it. It only affects these people, not me. It's very similar to the kinds of discussions that we had with around AIDS, around the beginnings of COVID, where everyone is just sort of, oh, well, it's not really my problem, and then it becomes everyone's problem. So
I'm
unfortunately,
so,
that's, I
yeah.
hate to bring the mood down there, but that's going to be an issue that we're going to have to really deal with, and that has nothing. And, aside from theater, just in general, as Americans, as New Yorkers, this is going to be a problem. So
I read that there was a state of emergency in New York for monkeypox. First of all, the name to me, I can't even say it. I don't know
yeah,
why.
it's
Isn't
rough.
there's something wrong with that, isn't there? Am I
There's a lot
crazy?
of there's a lot of yeah. Just it's doesn't feel and sound good. It's like let's find maybe a more um, um,
Neutral?
yeah, something that brings people into the conversation a little bit more instead of separating and stigmatizing and all of that.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, they wouldn't even say gay. They say it's prevalent among men having sex with men. I mean, the whole thing is just
exactly. There's a lot
it.
of you know. It's we're there's some it's going to be a challenge because we're still battling old stereotypes and a lot of um, just sort of meanness and hatred around people's lifestyles and their choices they've made. And it's like, no, this is a medical thing. We have to just get past that and be concerned with everyone. So
I love you for saying that and bringing it up. Listen, we can't no conversation gets brought down by anything. There's stark realities going on
yeah,
right now that
yeah,
we have got to deal with. And I'm sure even as the in-house contracting thing and the COVID safety manager in our theater, I mean, we'll probably be required to have vaccinations for monkeypox at some point to play in a
yes,
show. Who knows?
yeah, yeah,
Who knows?
yeah,
But just so everybody knows, in theater, we're so cognizant of all this stuff because we want the audiences to be entertained and have a good time and not being we worried, or the cast, or the backstage crew, or the musicians.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. And then I don't want to end on that note, but I really
Mm,
appreciate you bringing up the elephant in the room. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
we have
yeah.
to talk about these things as musicians.
Sure.
So, the one thing though that you were talking about when you were talking about your mother playing a little bass, did you ever play upright? Or
Yes, I
can
do.
do you
I
like to
do. It's
play?
still, yeah, yeah, I do. I did a couple of workshops this summer where I was playing a lot of upright, and I don't get called a lot to do it because I think people don't think that I do that, but I do, and I love it, and it's fun, and it's another great sort of voice to bring into the mix of things.
I
Um,
always wondered about that. Like when people double on upright and
mhm,
electric in a show, like for people that don't know on Broadway, you get paid extra if you double on instruments.
mhm, yes,
Um, in our show, we have people that double on different saxes, they double on two different trombones,
sure,
percussion gets a lot of different doubles,
yeah,
synthesizer. And you get, so everybody knows, Winston gets extra money for being in a costume, for dancing, right?
yes,
So our union is really good and takes care of us, which
yes,
is really nice.
yeah,
Um, Have you been on a show yet where you had to double on upright? No, right?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
Home for the Holidays. I played a lot of upright. I think that was the only one so far that I've done. But yeah, that was a holiday Christmas show, and there was a lot of back and forth going there. Yeah.
and when you have to find by the way, everybody, we should have 5 subs available in Broadway so that if somebody's sick or something has to happen, we can go down the line of 5 subs.
Yes.
Did you have to get somebody who could play both upright and electric
Yes,
for
yeah.
your subs for that? You
Yeah.
did.
Oh, yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is really great. Yeah. So now I don't want you to go on record for this, but this is my big question. Do you enjoy being in-house and playing bass?
Yes, I do.
So it uses both sides of your brain and you love doing that.
I do. I have, I'm not ashamed to admit it that I have certain qualities of organization and diplomacy, and I feel I'm happy to do that job because I know that it's getting done a certain way. I'm sure that there's somebody out there that may think, "Well, you did a terrible job about this," but I'm trying to do the best I can, and I enjoy the sort of challenge of keeping things organized and being a part of that, and I want to try to help everyone involved in the shows that I'm doing as best I can. It's a big team effort. So I feel like if I can do something that if I can do the best I can, then that will make something else better. And it just all keeps us all working and happy and playing good music and that sort of thing. So I do enjoy both things.
I love it.
Yeah.
And, there's this thing in theater, especially where we don't necessarily say what's brewing on the next job, but is something coming up for you that you're excited about? Or are you going to take a break for a while when the show closes? What's going to happen in the near future?
I have nothing coming up. I am looking forward to taking a break, and relaxing, I put off so many things that I wanted to do. Like I have a big stack of books that I want to actually read. I want to practice some other styles of music and things that I just haven't had a chance to, and just kind of decompress from that. I'm counting on somebody just calling me and wanting me to do what I do for their show. So it's sort of one of those things like I have no plans, and it could be a terrible idea to wait for my phone to ring, but I'm just like, I'm going to be okay with it for a while. So
yeah, because we were okay in the pandemic and we had to live with that. Yeah, and I think, didn't you learn a lot during that I mean, we had a book club. Yes. We had a book club during that pandemic. Yeah,
we had a lot. We did a lot, and that's also one of the things that was great about this particular show was, the band and the actors and the producers of the show, we were all in contact constantly. We had monthly Zoom meetings, and we were all being supportive. And and some people had a hard time during COVID, and they could get some support from their fellow work, and that's not a given. A lot of shows. I've heard that a lot of people, once the shows were closed for COVID, they didn't hear from anybody. But we were very tight knit, and we had a lot of times we even got together. Well, let's go meet in Central Park or something, and just stand around and 6 feet away from each other or something. So we got a lot of support for that. I'm looking forward to kind of a little bit of a break and getting back to doing some other things.
That's amazing. And I want to thank you something in these last 3 minutes. People don't know this about you, but I'm going to tell them. I have been associate conductor on shows. I have been key one and not playing, I've been all kinds of things. And I literally, once the show was up, not out of the rehearsal period, I was the sub on key one. And subs don't usually get their own lockers. But Winnie said to me, why don't you share my locker? Because you have to put your rehearsal stuff in and all this stuff. And I shared a locker with Winston Roye. He didn't have to do it. And he did it. And I want to just thank you for today. It's your day off from the show. I want everybody to know. And I really, really want to thank you for being there. Oh, listen to the Waitbot playing this emotional music. Okay.
Well, Deborah, you and I have played a lot of music together, and I'm always supportive of anything you're doing. So any place, anywhere on this planet, you need me for bass or just to say hello or whatever.
Oh, Willie, I'm going to take you up on it. You know I always hire you. Everybody, thank you so much for being here with this conversation. We'll see you for Barsha next week.